Between all the blind dates, the Cub Scouts and Company outings, millions of hot dogs, American flags, music and fun, 9 men on a field are joined by a 10th in the stands. The fans, who've come for over 150 years for atmosphere as much as anything else.
Low, and the babe swings. It's a long one going out toward right center. Stengler's backing up against the wall. He can't get it. It's in there.
That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron. The fireworks are out.
Left center field. It's a base hit. It's taken on the second hop. While Ripple, the throw is coming in a second. DiMaggio's racing for it. DiMaggio makes it with a slide and his base.
Barely a teenager, he'd spend 12 hours a day working in the dark. In the light, he'd throw rocks at a tin can from 50 feet away. That's what got him out of the coal mines and made him the star of the 1920 World Series, where he pitched 3 games and won them all. The kind of rags to riches story that's so American, so beautiful, you have to call it baseball. And the only stadium in America that bears his name, right here, in the place he called home. Stanley Kovaleski Regional Stadium, where the South Bend Silverhawks play. And those rags to riches stories still happen, where players like Mike Cameron, Justin Upton, Clay Zavada, Brandon Webb, and Brad Penny got their start. A professional team in our own backyard, where couples on dates, die-hard fans, and moms and dads can take the family for one of America's most enduring and most hopeful of all pastimes, an evening at the ballpark, in the heart of America's Midwest. And this is your team. It's hard to know what was more popular around here back then, the song or the game itself. Organized, semi-pro, and professional teams, a passion sport. Every field, every corner of every town and village throughout the region had been playing the game for nearly 50 years. The Whitecaps, Green Stockings, Senators and Gaelics, West Ends, East Sides, South Ends and Centrals, dozens and dozens of teams. National pastime? Here, it was a way of life. In a place like this, built by immigrants from every corner of the globe, to play baseball was as American as you could be. The equipment was practically handed to new arrivals as they stepped off the train.
It was kind of a stepping stone. How sometimes immigrants to an area would become more Americanized.
The players? Tough. Hundreds gathered to watch the Polish Turners beat the South Bend Goose Pastures in the 1898 Game of the Year. But pitcher George Schmaltzried had other plans. He struck out 18 Turners, hit a 2-run triple, and plucked line drives out of the air like they were cotton balls. For a pitcher with just one arm, Schmaltzried's only handicap was that the local papers could never spell his name right. At the factories, there were so many great players that companies like Studebaker formed multiple teams. Plant number 1, the general office, and foundry teams would play each other during the week, only to field all-star teams to play other factories on the weekends. The game and the players were big, but so was something called the 10th man. Ravenous fans from every city and every town in the region who embraced the game here like nowhere else in America. By the time Singer Company finished building their own factory stadium in 1915, it would seat 2,500 screaming fans. Studebaker, over 5,000. Rivaling modern Kovaleski Stadium where the Silverhawks play. Major league teams and scouts were so impressed that Detroit, Cleveland, Kansas City, and St. Louis came here all the time to play against local teams in exhibitions, and just as often they'd take some of our local players right back with them. St. Louis took Ollie Bama from Studebaker. When the Negro Leagues came to town, they took South Bend's Ted Strong, also known as one of the earliest Harlem Globetrotters. When icons like Babe Ruth, Satchel Paige, and Dizzy Dean visited to play local teams and exhibitions, they always made time to visit Kovaleski, whom Ruth called one of the hardest pitchers he'd ever come up against. Michiana's 10th man, one of the reasons that the All-American Girls League took off like a rocket in this town.
I saw him play. I was in love with all of them. Most of them.
But like a lot of cities and towns all across the country in the 1950s, the post-war boom was slowly coming to an end. The factories that once financed America's pastime in this region were downsizing or closing altogether. Baseball was changing, but it wasn't going away. Michiana was just getting ready for a new generation of stars. Some of them were playing on world-class high school, American Legion, or semi-pro teams. Some of them were playing for Holy Cross Grade School.
It's a game that has great lessons because of the teamwork that is required. My dad always said the prettiest play in all of sport is the double play. And part of its beauty is that you can have an Irish shortstop, an African-American second baseman, and a Mexican first baseman. It doesn't matter.
Kernan, who played ball for Notre Dame, a prisoner of war in Vietnam, devoted his professional life to serving the community he grew up in and loved so much, but never lost his love for the game of baseball.
He's just one of the guys that has goals, understands what vision he wants to see, and goes for it.
Kovaleski, he'd spend the rest of his life teaching kids in this region that baseball was like life, tough, maybe even cruel at times, and would live long enough to know that Mayor Roger Parent and other community leaders were planning for a new era of professional baseball in the region, a stadium and a team to play there. But Kovaleski died just a few years before opening day, and never knew that when the South Bend White Sox took the field for the first time in 1988, they'd do so in a magnificent new stadium named for the Pennsylvania coal miner, one of South Bend's favorite sons, who won the 1920 World Series and wanted to live among the families and fans of this community more than anywhere else in the world. The new mayor, Joe Kernan, future governor of the entire state. South Bend's new professional team started churning out major league players one after the other, more than ever before. Divisional and league championships time after time. And stories like Mike Cameron's, a player like Kovaleski before him who no one expected to make it, let alone set record after record in the major leagues and start his own foundation to help inner city kids. Cameron still talks about his time in South Bend and how special the fans are. Or Clay Zavada, who played for just 1 year before his father died of a heart attack and he returned home to run the family farm. Washed up after one season, Zavada went back to school, worked odd jobs to make ends meet, fought his way back to baseball, and became one of the most admired players in all of Major League Baseball.
A lot of times I go into Major League spring training and guys that have been away from South Bend for 3 or 4 years, and they get a little high on themselves. I come walking in and I said, oh, remember South Bend? Now you guys are making, $5, $10, $15 million a year. You're still South Bend to me.
The game is old, and we look at it really as being our game. It is the American pastime.
The game, the players, and the whole experience of professional baseball was a hit in this region again. And then the team made a bold move, adopted a symbol of the region that would cement the local relationship forever. The Sox became the South Bend Silverhawks, named after one of the most popular cars ever produced by the thousands of area employees who worked for Studebaker, including the ones who played on the Studebaker factory teams. But in 2005, the owners of the team, who lived out of state, offered to sell the Silverhawks to a group in Illinois. That's when Kernan put a group of local owners together to purchase the team and keep it here in South Bend where it belongs.
I wanted us to have minor league ball, knowing what it means to the people that live here and the people that are going to live here. It's an attraction.
There's nobody else in this community that wears South Bend on their front of their jersey.
A community that has opportunities for families, minor league baseball being one of them.
Be part of the team.
It is a place to enjoy.
Professional baseball in a setting so unique, a family can picnic together in left field while watching a future star who will never forget the men, the women, and children who come back time after time. The 10th man at Stanley Kovaleski Regional Stadium, where those rags to riches stories still happen. The South Bend Silverhawks, a professional team in our own backyard, where couples on dates, companies like yours, and moms and dads can experience one of America's most enduring and most hopeful of all pastimes. An evening at the ballpark, in the heart of America's Midwest, where you are the 10th man, and this is your team.
Take me out to the